Hey! Hi, everybody!
Yay!
Good morning.
We made it.
And there's Andrew. Good timing. We literally just went live. The timing is perfect.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Wright, human cartoonist extraordinaire, and welcome to the Less Than Secret Kickstarter wrap party. Woo!
Yay!
Play like one of those guys in front of the car wash.
Wait. I can do this. Hold on.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right.
All right.
The
And of
things I
course-
do for your entertainment.
Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica. Good to see you.
But yeah, we do have a couple stragglers that'll be showing up. Unfortunately, Ian had to get called away, and JD was not able to make it. But we are going to should have a quorum. Other than that, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Just in case anybody doesn't know who's here, I've said my name. Why don't we go start with Angela? Introduce yourself and say where people can find you.
Hi, I'm Angela Boyle. You can find me at angelabcomics.com. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Patreon at Angela B Comics. I got all the same thing. I'm very happy about it.
Nice. Lucky you.
Yeah.
All right, keep going to the. Yep.
A rain
All right.
man.
Hi, my name's Rainer Cannonstein. Me and Ben are the people who organized this anthology, and you can find me at RFCannon, which you can see on screen on rfcannon.com, at Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, though I wouldn't suggest it. Everything, I guess. I think I have an art station I have one image on.
Sounds about right. Why don't we drop down to Kelsey?
Sure. I'm Kelsey. I usually host these things, but it's really nice to not host a live chat for once.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, I'm also the air tube person, token mascot of the stream. So there you go. I am so tired.
Oh, yeah. We usually have meetings right before these things, just so people have a chance to hang out. And I completely spaced that was a thing, so we didn't set it up. And what was funny is when someone said, "Are we going to be doing that?" I was like, "I need to make coffee," but then yes,
Yeah.
this is my entire reason for having not been at that meeting.
I think that's valid. I was having breakfast.
Yeah, my coffee just got done brewing, so I'm gonna have to make some here in a second.
Yeah, we're not done with introductions yet.
No, I'm waiting.
Yes,
Hold
let's
on.
get to Ariane.
It might be frozen a little.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, but yeah, your
Cool.
camera's frozen.
Okay, I don't know why I'm frozen.
Cool ventriloquist trick.
Cool, yeah. Hey, look, my mouth isn't moving. Hi, I'm Ariane McCrae. You can find me at arianemccrae.com. You can find me on Tumblr at defdraws.tumblr.com. I'm on Patreon as Ariane McCrae. It's, I'm fairly easy to find. I have a very unique name. It's wonderful. Hi.
Hi.
Wave, but
I
my
completely
image is
forgot.
frozen.
Completely
for
forgot
you.
to mention KelseyDCrawford.com. KELCI. D as in dog. Crawford. There we go. Carlos is in the chat.
Yes,
Oh,
we have
wonderful.
also gotten to Carlos. By the way, we also have in chat that is also Jessica, because Jessica follows.
Yes,
I'll bring
Jessica
Ariane back
follows
when
Twitch.
she pops in. But yeah, I see Jessica's confusion about this being on my channel. So, fun fact, part of the perks of working for me is I bought, because Kelsey's going to be doing all the interviews, I actually paid for a month of premium or the next level up, whatever it is, StreamYard. So streaming would be a lot easier with a large group. But we didn't really think out when we did this. So hers expired, but I also bought one for me for my streaming. So we switched over here. Despite the fact that Kelsey is a better streamer than I am.
Yeah. Gentle reminder, they, them.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Man, I'm usually good about that.
But Arian's back.
Yes, Arian.
And
Andrew now, in Arian's
Yeah.
place.
My name's Andrew Small, and basically I'm only on Instagram. I just started a Twitter, but I'm not really figuring that out yet. But it's also at Bransom_art. So you can see it on screen.
Everything good?
Gremlins.
I'm fine. I knocked over my paintbrush jar, but I don't think anything broke. It's just fallen on the floor, so that's fine.
Cool.
I
Okay.
could deal with it later.
Yeah, I thought it was like a cereal or something.
Those pesky gremlins.
Exactly.
This is my paintbrush
Cryptids.
jar.
oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's
Oh my
cute.
gosh, it's a whale.
I made this in high school.
Oh, nice.
That is
Mine's
fantastic.
just an old salsa jar I cleaned out.
Yeah, that's holds more than mine.
Mine is
Drop
just a
a
series
jar
of
like the
mugs.
beat.
Mine is a series of mugs, including one that this is a purely decorative jar that was given to me by because I was just nerdy enough in school to be put on the mortarboard society because of my GPA, and as a reward they gave me this and like a couple of other trinkets, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this, so pens.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, Carlos threw out there, Jessica Follows make a great horror film.
Yes.
You see, I know you part of you said that as a joke, but now I'm writing that in my head. That happens whenever I get a horror idea. I'm writing right now.
Oh my gosh. Little does everyone know that's going to be in the next anthology.
This is true. Also, Collector Man says, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As the Kickstarter currently stands, we have 46 hours to go, and we are at 386%. We've raised $5,795 out of an original goal of $1,500. We're working on a $6,000. I know, right? We're working on a $6,000 stretch goal, at which point our artists all get paid more. And we also will agree to do a tabletop RPG live streamed in the not too distant future. We're only $205 away from that, so we are very close. A couple other hot statistics from the last month. So, as we've been fond of telling everybody, we made our initial goal in 5 hours. We hit our first stretch goal of 3,000 in 5 days. We hit the second one of 4,000 in 8 days. And we managed to hit our third stretch goal in 24 days. So, slow down. But we actually, one of the other things that blew my mind looking at this project, we've had forward movement every single day of the campaign. And that is not normal. It's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Unusual, but
It's great
people
to
love
watch.
their cryptids. So
Yes.
By the way, how's everyone's Japanese? Because my friend Emma just posted something, and I'm trying to.
It says
Zero.
congratulations.
Okay, omedetou gozaimasu then. Cool, that's right.
okay,
I Google
cool.
translated it. I don't speak Japanese.
Good timing. Yeah, my hiragana is very weak these days.
If my friend Chloe was in the chat, she'd be able to translate for us because she knows, but I do not.
Yeah, I used to. I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Other fun statistics. We are currently listed, if you sort by popularity, not by magic, because I don't think the magic sorting is same for everybody. We are the 6th most popular comic anthology right now out of 860. And the 78th most popular overall comic on Kickstarter currently out of 18,454. I believe at one point we peaked there at about 48. And if you're in the top 50, that's an interesting thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Impressive.
I'll take those statistics. That was awesome.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
that's amazing.
That's really cool.
Oh, also, we currently have 182 backers, which is over 4 times the number of backers of any of my previous projects. So, at least for me, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That is
Oh, man.
amazing.
That's like almost 3 times, if not 4 times, the number of backers that backed The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 1.
I think the
I'm
most
sorry,
that anybody has ever read.
is in the chat. Hey!
Hey!
Yay!
Yeah, I think
showed
the
up
most
right
anyone
around
has ever read one of my
Just goes
comics is.
scroll bar when enough windows come in.
Yeah.
I showed up right around the time you guys were lamenting you didn't have anyone that spoke Japanese, and I was just like, I'm right here. I'm right here, guys. Can no one?
Oh.
Man.
Yeah, it's funny. I probably could have figured it out, but I was on live camera and I panicked. But yes, Jess.
That's okay. My Japanese is rusty too.
Yeah. Introduce yourself and say where we can find you.
Hello, I am Jess. You can find me on Instagram and Patreon at Skywhale Comics. I mostly post diary comics, but sometimes I also do anime fan art. And I did a story for the Less Than Secret Cryptid comic anthology. Yes. You can find me there too.
Yep. It would be weird if somehow we couldn't.
We brought on a random artist who wasn't part of this project whatsoever. It was just like, hey,
so cool.
I just
this
realized
is just our cool friend.
Our two absentees are the writer for Andrew's story and the cover artist. Every story, though, is represented.
This is
That's
true.
kinda cool.
Yay. Go
Actually,
us.
just in case anyone doesn't know what we're doing, why don't we go around and say, just give a little pitch for our story.
Ooh.
Sure.
Uh,
Do you want me to go? Because I've been doing this for the entire month on every stream.
that sounds about right. Go for it. Yes.
Okay, so Less Than Secret, a cryptid anthology, collects 7 short stories, each one about a different cryptid. There's the Mothman, there's the Fresno Nightcrawler, there's a bunch. But all of them are all collected in one book. It's black and white, over 100 pages of comics storytelling. The Kickstarter is up at tinyurl.com/lessthansecret. Check it out. It's awesome. There we go. Pitch done.
Yay. Nice and easy.
Yes.
Nice and easy.
One of the things.
Need to warm up for when it's safe to go back to convention season and I can start pitching stuff to people.
Oh, I hear that.
Oh, man.
One thing that I'm definitely going to do is make this book a centerpiece of my table whenever I'm back at cons.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So,
It's
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. This project has been crazy. I just want to keep doing anthologies forever now.
Yeah.
yeah.
I love how this project brought together like so many different people with so many different art styles. And it's like, it's this really great, I'll do my pitch for it. It's this really great sampler of lots of different kinds of art and storytelling and comics. It gives you a little bit of everything from, you know, comedy, horror, slice of life. It's just because because the only sort of connecting thread was you had to do something about a cryptid, it let us all sort of really stretch our storytelling skills and do things that were unique and interesting and different. So it really is the kind of thing where there's something for everybody, even if, you know, maybe horror isn't your thing. There's like at least 3 comics that are mostly comedy. If you're interested in sort of like a prose comics sort of blend, Angela did a really cool, really interesting sort of blend of prose and comics, and it's a murder mystery. And like, it's so cool. It's so cool how different everything is, and yet it all works together so well.
Yeah,
Marvelous.
it's
Hold on, Ben, Rainer, just okay. There's the cryptid. He's back. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I could hear
What, did
Ariane.
aliens take him?
I could hear Ariane in the real world. So it's like that's probably going to echo.
That's right, because they're both roommates.
Roommates.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, they were roommates.
But yes, fully agreed on the pitch. Just didn't want echo.
You probably
Right.
you probably could hear me because I was talking unusually loud because I do that when I get excited.
It's a steady apology.
but yeah,
It
I
is.
was actually interviewed on Anthropomantic Fiend's YouTube channel a couple nights ago, and one of the things that I was asked was, "Do you have a favorite story or one you particularly want to shout out?" And I had to be, and I was just like, I really can't pick favorites on this one. Like, they're all really good.
Good. That was the correct answer.
That was the correct answer. The one I did bring to attention, just because I think it's something that I'd like to see more of this type of thing being done, was Angela's. Just I thought of it because of what Ariane said, because that prose and comics fusion thing I'd never seen before, and it's really exciting. Like, I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I just read more Allie Broche. She did Hyperbole and a Half. I just read her second book, Solutions and Other Problems, and I realized, well, she's doing the same thing. It's a combination of prose and comics, and it's even greater than either prose or comics. I just love it so much.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of children's books that kind of do mixed media, if you want to call it that. Like one page will be like a comic strip, and then you'll have like a chapter book kind of a thing, and then it'll be an image with some words, and it's a really neat medley of prose and pictures and things. It's really neat.
For the opposite,
I think we know what Angela's next project is going to be.
for the opposite of a children's book, Phoebe Gleckner's Diary of a Teenage Girl kind of is the same thing, but like in a different sort of comic to prose ratio.
Ooh.
One of my favorite artists who got me into comics in the first place, Ursula Vernon, is doing like an occasionally updated Twitter web comic that's sort of a combination storybook prose novel comic in a really cool and interesting way. I really like the way she in particular blends like prose and comics together. But that was what I was reminded of was Nameless Sheep when I was reading Angela's Seed of Truth.
Is that who did Digger?
Yes.
Yeah, she wrote the introduction to one of the Awesome Possum volumes.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
That's so cool.
She's fantastic.
I love Ursula Vernon so much. Like I love Digger.
Too.
Digger is like up there among like it's so hard to pick a favorite, but Digger is probably one of my favorite comics of all time.
Oh yeah. I have the omnibus edition. It's like it's humongous.
I want the omnibus edition, but I settle for just reading the webcomic over and over again every like 3 years or so. I read it again.
Right.
Come on, hop on the omnibus. Don't make me turn this omnibus around.
You mentioned favorite comics. Was that what you brought up at CCS when you had to? Did you have to do that thing where you presented a comic that you were really into before CCS, and having to go back over it now and see what you think of it still?
No, I don't think we did do that.
Okay.
When we were there, we did do the bit where you had to pick like 5 influential comics, and Digger was on there as one of my 5 influential comics. I also Rainer actually said when I finished the when I finished my inks and at one point told me he was looking over, he was like, this kind of reminds me of Digger. And I was like, that is the best compliment you could possibly have given me.
It feels so good when people say that kind of thing.
Right. I was like, oh, really? You think the black and white feels like one of my favorite comics of all time? That's awesome.
Goal achieved.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember when I was first learning some digital illustration. This was before CCS, but I was using a program on the iPad called, I think it's called Sketch Club. I don't even know if it's still around, but it was sort of a combination iPad drawing program and DeviantArt was the idea. Like there would be all these challenges that get posted, and this app was specifically designed for drawing stuff to post in there. I remember I posted one, and someone said that it looked like a Frazetta style painting. And first off, this was before I went to art school, so I was like, I don't know who Frazetta is. So I looked him up. And I'm like,
oh wow,
I'll take that compliment because this stuff looks great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Oh,
So.
Speaking of like odd apps and things like that, have any of you checked out Artful yet? It's ARTFOL.
I did when it was still in beta, and I haven't looked at it since.
Yeah.
Is that good now? Is it big?
I don't know yet. I mean, I downloaded it and I poked around it, and I have a friend who's on there, but Ben, when you were talking about like, oh yeah, it's an app where you can draw stuff and you can like interact with prompts and stuff like that. It made me think of Artful, because Artful actually has a tab now where it lists different art prompts if you need to draw something. And I'm like, well, that's different.
I do a Sketch Day app. It's got a Instagram following and all kinds of stuff. Daily prompts. It did Inktober last year and everything. That's the social prompt thing I use. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Like, can I get one of those, but where like all of the prompts are like hot anime people?
Oh,
That's the only way. That's the only way I can do it. This is the only thing I'm good at drawing.
I made my own prompt in Excel.
Jess,
Nice.
the only thing stopping you from turning any prompt into a hot anime character is your own self-doubt.
That's a good point. Inktober 2021.
Okay,
Hot anime
I'm gonna need to do this now. I have to get it before someone takes BWH Comics.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I feel like if anyone's gonna steal Ariane McCrae, they're kind of welcome to it.
Yeah.
I'm the only one on the internet. Why would you?
Yeah.
I think I'm the only BWH Comics. Like, that has not been a problem for me at all.
Yeah, same as
Somehow
Angela
I don't
B.
think
Comics.
Rainer's gonna have a hard time either.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. It's like, okay, if you've stolen Ariane McCrae, you've stolen it on purpose in order to spite me specifically, and like more power to you.
Yeah, I think part of the trick is how many of us figured out to add comics to our name. Like, Angela B. Comics, I gotta imagine. Angela B. is probably tricky, but with comics, that immediately becomes easier.
Yeah, most Angela Boyles are not making comics. As far as I know, I'm the only one making comics. The rest are all playing soccer.
For a very long time, if you Googled, and still, if you Google Ariane McCrae, what comes up is all actually me. But for a long time, that was true for most of my life. And when I was in high school, it used to be you could Google my name and come up with my middle school track record. And you'd get like, I placed 4th in the shot put in 8th grade in this location in the real world at this school. And like, there was a little tiny part of me that when I was in high school was like, maybe I shouldn't have it known, that I did this particular track meet in this specific town at this specific school with an address you can look up.
Yeah. It's funny. I was very paranoid about my internet presence because I remember going to a museum of some kind that had a database of names. And I put in my name, Ben Wright Human, and it said, there are no other Ben Wright Humans in the world. And I'm like, oh, then it'd probably be really easy to find me. So I was very, very careful about what went on the internet until I started doing comics. So pretty much everything that shows up is my comic stuff. But there was actually a thing for a while. If you did a Google image search of me, you got my friend John from college, who looked a lot like me before you got me.
Oh, that's funny.
Surprise! John was in on it the whole time.
Jessica says that she made a pen name for herself that is completely unique, completely and incredibly ridiculous.
That's yeah.
Yeah,
is it in the
good way to
same
do
vein
it.
as Chuck Tingle? Please let it be in the same vein as Chuck Tingle.
Before I started using
This is a family
the
stream.
internet,
No, I'm kidding.
before I started using the internet very much, I Googled myself once, and I found a collection of the book reports we did in 2nd grade.
Oh,
Like my whole class.
That's just weird.
It was. I can't find it now. I want to. I remember I went to this weird prep elementary school. It's complicated. But
Just to acknowledge it.
But it was funny because everyone else was reading like the works of Shakespeare or like Roman Karmanoff's Lolita, or not Lolita. Ada. I'm trying to think of a fancy Russian word, and I was reading like Dr. Seuss, The Cat in the Hat Strikes Back. They didn't tell us what book to review. But I was like, I'm kind of glad that's no longer on the internet presence, but I am glad you can find Less Than Secret, because all of us are promoting it pretty heavy.
I saw on the internet someone did a book review of book report rather of Fight Club, and all it said was the first rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And then at the bottom of the page it said, "That's it. That's the report."
That's brilliant. That is
Very
brilliant.
good.
I feel like we've got kind of two generations here, because we've got the generation that first started growing up when the internet was weird and no one knew what was going to happen, and then the generation that was brought up when everyone knew exactly how dangerous the internet could be, and you guys actually were prepared from a young age.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't have a cell phone until after college.
We don't have the representative of the next generation, which grew up after the invention of Facebook, when everyone was putting their actual names and addresses on the internet, and so they don't give a crap about internet safety.
I was going to say, I was handed a computer for the first time when I was 5, and no one told me to be safe on it. So,
okay, so we do. Never mind.
Okay.
Well, I feel like schools were teaching that kind of thing in a way that ours weren't.
we did have a class on it, so that is true.
Mm-hmm.
Schools told me to be safe.
Yeah. I grew up watching a lot of like what kids nowadays would call propaganda. And the propaganda at the time was really into don't talk to people online. You never know when one of them is a pedophile. And it's like every other episode was this girl talked to this stranger online and it turns out he was a pedophile. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to not deal with that. I'm making for myself. I'm not going to tell anyone where I live. I'm not going to put my address anywhere. I'm good.
My big internet issue was when I was in high school, I had very, very strongly separated my professional student Ariane McRae accounts. And then over on the side, I had like my fun fandom silly stuff where I didn't tell anyone my real name, blah, blah, blah. It was dedicated follower 467. Well, then I made the mistake of writing a comic under the name dedicated follower 467.
And then it stuck.
And then I realized that, actually, I want that to be my professional thing, not my silly side job. So now I have to blend dedicated follower 467 and Ariane McRae together. And now I cannot hide my presence on the internet. Everything I have is like, I am both Ariane McRae and dedicated follower 467.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Yeah, so I did Andrew Small art, and when you don't put it, when you can't space it, and it's all written one thing, it looks like it says Andrew's Mall art, and so I was just like, oh man, one of my actually I don't work there anymore. My last day was yesterday. One of my old coworkers pointed it out, and I couldn't unsee it. So I was just like.
Of like landscape pictures of like abandoned malls.
Yeah.
You're the comic Banksy.
Also, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. It was 7 years, so it's kind of weird, but it's been a long time coming. So.
Carlos, my first name isn't really the. I never would have guessed.
It's like in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, where there's a scene where they're talking about a guy they refer to as it's a shortened version of El Mariachi. They just call him El, and he says it means the, and the guys go, I know what El means.
Of course.
So speaking of people finding you on the internet, one of the other things about this Kickstarter that we've all talked about a little bit that is a little different from anything we've experienced before is a lot of the people who discovered our project discovered it through Kickstarter, like a way higher number than normal. With current statistics, by the way, we did get an extra pledge. Thank you if you're watching.
Yay!
Yeah, we're up to 5,815 now.
But we're to that 6,000 stretch goal.
Very close.
If we did it, we will do a one-shot tabletop RPG.
Yes,
it'll be awesome. A lot of fun.
Yes.
But the statistic I want to bring up is $3,158 of that, or 54%, was pledged via people who discovered us through Kickstarter, which is nuts.
That's great.
Like that means that these are people that probably did not know us.
Yeah.
And just happened to find the project, thought it looked cool, and decided to back it. Previous
Knew
statistics.
it looked cool.
Yeah. It does.
Oh, yeah,
look
we
cool.
got what, like 180 backers or something like that?
Yeah, we're at 183.
I don't know.
Heck yeah.
There may be 5 of those people I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep looking at the list. I'm like, I don't know anyone on here.
Yeah.
I know a couple.
So you guys, you have been checking the list. I was curious about that because
I
a couple
didn't know.
of
I
people have
looked at
access
the
to help
list.
run stuff. But I was actually wondering if we should end up showing around the list, or if that's a bad idea. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Don't show it off yet, especially not on
not to
screen.
the general public, but
Yeah, maybe to
like,
us.
do you
maybe.
guys know any of these? Do you want to sign it special or something like that?
Yeah.
But the other,
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I don't
Yeah.
actually know how to look at the list, so I want to see it
Yeah.
at some point.
so
We'll
my
figure that
mom
out
is
on
telling me that we need to have like an exit poll for everyone who backs, just to say, did you back for a particular person? And I'm like, that seems like a weird thing to do. Or like,
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that.
yeah,
I don't think
they're
you're
like
allowed
market
to.
research stuff
That's-
like that.
I don't
Or
think you're allowed to do marketing research.
Here's a workaround. This is something I did for The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 1. Have a little field that the backer can fill in however they want, and ask like something to the gist of, would you like any special flourishes with an autographed copy?
Or like, also just like a general backer exit survey could be something like, how did you find us?
Yeah.
Because that would be useful, helpful information for all of us who are either going to be doing more anthologies in the future or are going to like do our own Kickstarter projects. It would be really helpful to be like, hey, how did you find us? Did you follow through so-and-so's Twitter? Did you find us through Kickstarter? Did you see something come up on Facebook? Whatever. That
We'll have
kind of
to
thing.
check the regulations on Kickstarter. We might have to do that somehow separate from the actual backer
Yeah.
survey.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like Survey
Maybe.
Monkey.
yeah, because Kickstarter is very particular about like what it is that you ask your backers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense. So if it's not obvious, some of this is new ground for at least a few of us. I have done other
Kickstarter before.
actually, I think only 3 of us have done Kickstarters before. Is that right?
There's me, Angela, and you, Ben.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And this was my first time. Rainer's and my first time running an anthology. So
Yes. Yes, it is. It's been quite a great time, honestly. I was quite. I expected it to go worse. It's gone awesome.
by the way, Jessica mentions that I backed another Kickstarter that was in the recommended list on yours. See, following our Kickstarter has benefits.
Yeah.
Additional benefits.
Funny
Additional
story.
benefits.
A funny
Main
story.
benefit.
I had looked on our Kickstarter for Less Than Secret at tinyurl.com/less than secret back it before it ends on Monday. But I was looking, and then I went to the bottom for like recommended that's similar, and there was one that I ended up backing. It was Unicorn Vampire Hunter.
Oh,
Fantastic.
And I'm like, yes.
have you read Pinocchio Vampire Slayer?
Yes, I have.
Loved it.
That's
I
actually
loved
pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. That was, is slave labor graphics even still around? Because I'm not sure that it is, but I know that Pinocchio Vampire Slayer was a slave labor graphics book. That's why I was thinking about it.
Huh.
Yeah, that was a
That
fun
name
one.
has me worried. I think they need to rebrand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie. Like
Just-
every time you said that, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
a little cringy.
Yeah.
I am thinking I was mishearing you.
Yeah, no.
Wishing.
I actually backed 2 Kickstarters during this also, because I
Nice.
felt tempted to pay it forward.
Oh,
One of
I'm
the-
so addicted.
Mhm.
one of the ones I backed, admittedly, it was gonna get made. It's one of the most popular on Kickstarter right now. It's the next season of Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
But I'll still give it a shout out because I really want that to get as big as possible. But the other one, which just ended the other day, was a mystery comic called The Last Homicide, which looked interesting.
Ooh.
I saw you back that. Yeah, I watch you.
Carlos made a recommendation for union labor comics.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah,
I like
I like
that.
it too.
that's better.
Yeah, it's much better.
Oh, and Jessica brings up Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, God, I loved that book when it came out.
I've not read it.
Yeah, they made a graphic novel adaptation of it, which I have yet to read.
I read a bunch of. I think it was one guy kept writing those. Was that book written by the same person who did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Because that was a great book.
You know,
I don't know, but I know
wanted
he
to
also
check that
made Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters.
I'm noticing a trend.
We live in great times when it comes to weird media.
I mean, my mom is really just like Jane Austen is her #1 hobby. So usually we'll just like buy her Jane Austen related things because that's still a big market in 2021. But like the year that book came out was a lot of fun to be like, here, don't you love things that are related to Jane Austen? Enjoy.
Good luck.
Yeah.
See, my first thought is I want to say it was there was a graphic novel of Emma that got made that I just remember us tearing apart at CCS. Like we weren't even reading it; we were flipping through it, looking at it, and being like, "This looks absolutely awful."
I have
kinda remember
yet to read a really, really good graphic novel adaptation of something that was originally a novel.
There's
Like,
I've been seeing images for the graphic novel adaptation of Slaughterhouse 5 that looks really good. I'm excited for that, actually.
That sounds like it would be difficult because
Yeah.
that story is told non-linearly.
No, that's the thing is, from what I saw, they're not doing just like the standard everything's like 6-panel grid. They're going really artistic with it.
Okay, that could
One-
work.
One I would like to recommend. It is a little different from the original book, but Junji Ito's Frankenstein.
Ooh.
It's so
Okay.
good.
I would be interested just because Junji Ito plus Frankenstein. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It's great.
Graphic novel adaptations I've tried to read. Like, I'm a really big fan of the Discworld, which anyone who's seen my interview with Kelsey knows.
Yeah.
But I read a graphic novel adaptation of the first book in the series, The Color of Magic, and I was like, this sucks all of the life and joy and humor and energy out of this novel.
Yeah.
Like, I did not know that you could make a comic that was this dry and boring and like empty of meaning, especially when you're adapting it from something like Discworld. I was just so disappointed. But then again, there's only like one Discworld adaptation I've ever liked, because I haven't liked. I liked the Hogfather movie adaptation, and that's it. I don't like the Making Money, or no, the Going Postal movie adaptation. I don't like the graphic novel adaptations I've read. I don't like. It's just the Hogfather. That's it. That's the only good one. Everything else sucks.
Yeah. I was trying to think of like a good graphic novel adaptation of something. And I was like, well, there was that one adaptation of the Odyssey that I read. Oh, that one wasn't really all that good. It was like walls of text in speech bubbles. And I'm like, okay, this is an artistic choice.
I've heard the adaptation of Sapiens, which is a very popular book on human evolution, is good, but that's a non-fiction book.
I want to check that one out. Yeah,
I actually
I'm very
got a copy
intrigued.
for Christmas. I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
It looks
So
good.
that's a project I've wanted to do since CCS, but it's one of those things that'd be so massive I don't think it could ever be done. But I wanted to do sort of an anthology project that's Ovid's Metamorphoses, and every single time the story changes, you switch to another artist. So each person gets like 1 or 2 pages at most.
That'd be interesting.
Oh,
The
that
problem
would be
is
fun.
there are like hundreds of stories in Ovid's Metamorphoses. So this is
Yeah.
going to be an absolutely gigantic nightmare of a project.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be cool?
That would
Stay
be
tuned
fun.
for our next Kickstarter.
What we do is like we'd have 3 people plus our Sikoriak to take care of the rest.
Yeah.
When Scotty Young did a good adaptation of Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I read that. That was
Okay.
actually fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
I
there's a
forgot
good
about that.
adaptation.
I
That
have
was
to check
really
that
good.
out.
Yeah,
I
I like
used
it a
to be a
lot.
really big Oz fan
And
when I was in like
he did
middle school.
all of the books in the series too, not just the first
I
one.
think so. Or they're working on it. I don't know if they finished it yet. Yeah, it's
I've read
huge.
The
And there's
Oz
five.
books get weird.
yes.
Yeah.
And Scotty Young is a wonderfully he's a great artist for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do
very
also
read the
creepy.
first.
I do also just want to bring up, because I mentioned Junji Ito's Frankenstein. He's done another novel adaptation, No Longer Human. I'm blanking on who wrote it. It's a famous Japanese novel, and it's one of the. I haven't read the original book, but Junji Ito's adaptation is one of the most depressing books I've ever read, and it's amazing. Because the entire thing is about severe depression, and it's just really dark and gritty. And I'm a huge Junji Ito fan. I love the stuff he does. It's completely him writing and him doing art. He is better adapting other people's writing. And so when I say that, that's really high praise. Like,
Yeah.
Have you read his cat story?
I
That is
have,
sad.
and they're hilarious.
I love it so much.
He wrote an entire book on, like, for people who don't know, Junji Ito's main thing is really great body horror. Like, he does terrifying horror comics, and they're really good and really gruesome. And then he did a video that's just a diary about his cats.
Oh, okay. Because when you said Junji Ito's cat story, and I'm like, oh no, what did he do to this cat?
That just
it's so good. It's such a horror writer writing about his weird cats.
Yeah.
It's so perfect.
Kelsey, have you read any Junji Ito? I can't remember.
There was a chapter of something that I picked up at Free Comic Book Day, and I flipped through it, and I remember turning the page to look at the monster, and I was like, nope.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I love his stuff.
It's very good.
I would watch this. I would
yes.
so much.
I want that so bad now.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Here's the thing. Kelsey, you should absolutely read his cat diary, because it is hilarious, especially if you know what he normally does.
Okay.
There's a Columbus cartoonist, Canada Keck, who mentioned, when I brought up Junji Ito, that's the only work of his that she'd read. And I was dear. You don't even, like, she thought it was funny and weird, but she didn't really make the connection. Like, the best part is, like, if you knew his other stuff, this would be even funnier.
Read Uzumaki, then read the cat one.
Uzumaki, that was. I
love Uzumaki. That was the first one I read, and I read it for Halloween because CCS library had, a big display, and that was one of the ones on display. And I realized my underpants had spirals on them one day, and was like, "Oh my god!"
It's like, today I learned I can be afraid of a shape.
So great.
I read Uzumaki back in college at a friend's recommendation, and we never did this, but I discussed with that friend's roommate, like, swapping out all his bed sheets for spiral bed sheets and then acting like nothing happened. For anyone who doesn't know, Uzumaki is all about a town being infected by spirals, and it's as weird and as creepy as it sounds.
Oh, it's better than it sounds. It was amazing.
Speaking of Junji Ito and this Kickstarter, I actually put together a dummy for the book sleeves, because we're going to be hand making those in the special editions. Ooh. And the one book I had that was close to the right size is Fragments of Horror by Junji Ito.
Ooh.
Which is one of his short story collections. Fun story about this book. That same friend from college sent me an extra copy that he'd gotten, and I got it while I was still at CCS. And I'd done a lot of horror comic stuff at that point, so I was pretty inured to it. Like, horror doesn't affect me that much anymore. Reading this book, it's 8 short stories. There were 6 times that night reading it, I dropped the book. Because there'd be a patron, I'd be like, ugh!
Yeah.
I read Tamie. Is that how you say it? That one freaked me out. This lady.
That was the one. That was the one that I picked up at Free Comic Book Day. The one where he, like, goes in, where, like, the main character goes into this, like, a house, and there's, like, a sentient armor set walking down the hall, and then all of a sudden he turns the corner and there's this giant monster thing.
Oh. Yeah. His books are just so creepy.
It's so good.
To
Yeah,
me,
by
I
the
have
way-
the lady who like self-duplicates, and it's
Yeah.
just the creepiest thing I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, fun fact about this book, by the way, an extra scare that I got out of it is I was talking about it on a video call with my mom at one point, and afterwards I just put it over to the side, and the light hit it just right. There's a second image on this cover that only shows up when the light hits it just right, and it's one of the creepy images from inside the book. So, after having read it, and just in a conversation with my mom, like I was sitting there for like 15 seconds shocked because I was like, and when you can do that, you're a good horror writer.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I work at the library near here, and we have a section where, you have that one book that's faced out so that you can see the cover because it's showcased. But on the back of it is a big face of Danielle Steele, and there's no books behind it. So if you go through the other aisle behind it, it looks like there's someone staring at you through the bookcase.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I can picture it in my head right now.
Yeah. So all the librarians, all the people working at the library are like, oh, it's just Danielle Steele.
Like the least horror-y author.
But her face is just...
I feel like that's what author portraits tend to look like in covers or in the back end of the book. It's always like,
And for some reason, it's the entire back cover is her face, and I don't know why.
I can think of an exception to the whole like steely-eyed look thing.
steely-eyed.
I can think of an exception. Yeah, I can think of an exception. If you will permit me, I am going to grab this book off of my shelf because y'all need to hear the pitch for this thing. I will be right back.
While they're grabbing that book, the guy who wrote BFG, his other photos were always terrifying. Whatever his name was.
Roald Dahl?
Yeah, Roald Dahl.
He looked...
He does not look the way you think a beloved children's author should look. It's like he's in that regard. It's kind of like when you see pictures of Shel Silverstein in the back of like his poetry. You're like, this guy who wrote this. Like, okay, Roald Dahl's not the same kind of. This is not what I pictured this man looking like, but.
I don't know what either of them actually. Well, I think I know what Cheryl Silverstein looks like, but I don't know what Roald Dahl looks like. But I'm picturing Alan Moore, and please don't change that.
Okay. So this book that I have on my shelf that I picked up because somebody got the like back blurb and posted it on Tumblr and went, "Is this real?" And somebody was like, "This is real." So, okay, I need you to understand this. This is a romance novel. It's Sandra Hill, the Angel Wore Fangs.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait until you hear the pitch. Okay. Everybody's sitting down, right? This is important. You need to sit down for this.
I think we want to start.
Once guilty of the deadly sin of gluttony, 1,000-year-old Viking vampire angel Knut Sigurdsson is now a lean, mean vampire devil fighting machine. His new side job? No biggie. Just ridding the world of a threat called ISIS while keeping the evil Lucifyers, demon vampires, at bay. So when Chef Andrea Stewart hires him to rescue her sister from a cult recruiting terrorists at a Montana dude ranch, Vangel turns cowboy. Yeehaw!
What?
Please.
Another paragraph.
What? That's like, let's Google the top search words on the internet and put them in a book.
Like vampire, cowboy, angel, demon.
I have a weird respect for this author.
I know.
Yeah.
Right? The best thing is that when you look at her like author info, it's this like smiling businesswoman looking person.
Beautiful.
You're hired. That is amazing.
Also, there's time travel.
Of course.
What?
Of course.
By the way, what's the name of the Viking again? Can we get that?
It's okay. It's spelled Cnut, and then his last name is Sigurdsson. So I am going to interpret that as being pronounced as Knut.
I think that might be a name.
Because I heard you say Nutsy Gerdson, and I was like, what? His name's
Also great
Nutsy?
for a romance.
Which, by the
There's a
way,
name.
is in fact the name of the mascot of the Richmond Flying Squirrels baseball team. And I
I
cannot
just Googled
emphasize
it.
enough that is the best. That is not a joke.
And the
just
funny thing
Googled
is,
it.
I
That's a real
started
name.
actually reading this book because I was like, okay, why not? I want to see how ridiculous this gets. So one of the bad guys is disguised as John Wayne. And all of the bad guys are at a Dracula's castle that is, as it is advertised, a Dracula's castle, and they're hiding out there because it's like, oh, the locals just think it's a tourist spot. Whatever.
Oh my god.
That's fantastic.
Every chapter has like a menu, which because the theme for
It's a
this is
chef.
food.
For a dude ranch. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like every chapter starts with like a little menu of like different things that are offered, like depending on the theme of the chapter. So like if it's like a flashback to Viking times, it's a Viking menu. If it's current times talking about the love interest, then it's like all desserts. It's just this book is madness.
It
I love
sounds
it.
like
There
it.
he is.
I love it.
I love it because it's madness, but it's
Yes.
it's utter madness, and I love it.
It kind of makes me think of Ariane. You were an English major, right?
I was, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you also had this problem, but being an English major really burned me out on reading for a long time.
Yep.
And what really got me back into it was starting to listen to schlock. Like audiobooks that were not necessarily what people would consider fine literature or anything like that. And I realized, wait a minute, it doesn't have to be the great American novel to be good.
Yeah.
Or to be fun. And like that really turned me around and made me find how to like reading again.
It also doesn't help much that the books that people make you read for classes are not fun reads.
I was told in one of my creative writing classes so I took a creative writing class. I want to say this was my sophomore year of undergrad at Mount Holyoke College.
Mm-hmm.
I took a creative writing class, and the first day, the professor had us go around and say what our favorite book was. And people are saying things that are like, oh, well, I really like, I think one of them definitely said something by Ernest Hemingway. Someone's like, there's Fitzgerald, like all of them were saying these really classic greats, or they were talking about like modern greats, like the Kite Runner or Jhumpa Lahiri, stuff like that. And it got around to me, and I was like, my favorite book is Night Watch by Terry Pratchett from the Discworld series. And I just got this look of blank confusion. And then the same guy told me in that same class, told all of us that we weren't allowed to write what he called genre fiction because it was too formulaic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I ended up
watches...
pushing the boundaries and writing a whole bunch of magical realism anyway. So
there you go. There's no rules against that.
Yeah, one of the things I'd say to anyone who watches this who's interested in creating, you don't have to write high academic stuff. You don't have to try to create the great American novel or the great American graphic novel or whatever country you're watching this from. The best there. Make what you enjoy. Make what's fun. Make what you think you could sit down and work on for 100 hours or 1,000 hours.
Yeah,
5 years.
Yeah, that's
like
worth it. Like, you're never going to see people necessarily calling, say, Goosebumps high literature, but you don't think he loves making those Goosebump books and people love reading them?
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't want to fall into the Conan Doyle trap where you make a beloved character that no one will let you quit. Make something you enjoy.
Also, I think like Earl Stein's like the 7th wealthiest author alive, so he's doing fine.
Yeah,
that's
just it. Like that, you can have incredible commercial success making stuff that people don't necessarily consider to be high art or anything like that.
You can probably
and as soon as you stop worrying about that, you'll be way happier.
Yeah, you'll probably make more money doing stuff that's not considered high art.
Yes.
Also, I'm just going to throw this out there because there's a side channel of PBS that's on YouTube called, I think, Storied. But they actually did an episode about like the New York Times bestseller list and why it's not 100% accurate or honest.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So like even those things that like, writing professors would be like, no, this has to be valid because it's a blah, 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 blah bestseller or it won this many awards. And it's like, that doesn't really mean anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's this is not exactly like commercial creative success, but for a long time, I'm really big into fandom. I write a lot of fanfic and I read a lot of fanfic. And for a really long time, I stopped writing any fanfic because I was like, I just, and I would like write little tiny things, but I wasn't into it. And I had an idea, but I was so nervous about how people would receive this idea. I felt like it was super self-indulgent and also it was like, it's fanfic, it was erotica, it was, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, I don't know if I can write this. This is really like sort of edgy. And I feel like I'd just be writing it for me and no one would like it and blah, blah, blah. I started writing it, I want to say 2 years ago, year and a half ago, in November of 2019. Actually, after I started taking antidepressants. So like there's a surprising correlation there between I'm no longer depressed. I feel like I can write again. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I will just write the most self-indulgent bullshit and I'm writing it for me and it doesn't matter if anyone likes it. And I'm over 180,000 words in now, and I have tons of comments every time I update, and it's been a while since I've updated, and I'm sorry, but if you're following me for that, which you're probably not, but like, that has been, it enabled me to write again in a way that nothing else had, and it really is just do the thing that you think is like super self-indulgent and that no one will read, because I guarantee you there is someone out there who will read it.
I mean, one of the big examples of that is Check Please, which is about gay hockey Baker.
Yes.
Who would have thought that would be so successful?
Popular.
Yeah.
And I think it's the passion.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It
People can tell when you
making
you
that.
enjoy it. Yeah. When you're excited about it.
Yes. Yeah. And you gotta have that like drive to be like, oh my God, I'm so in love with this idea, to keep working on it.
Yeah.
Has anyone else noticed, like during this past month, your productivity has been way up?
Yes.
No, but that's because I've had a lot of other things happening at the same time, and I've been very busy.
I've been barely able to move. I have not had any creative juice this entire month at all.
Freelance work.
Okay.
I've been very motivated to actually start taking this a lot more in a business direction, like looking at Patreon and doing my own kind of things now, print shop, that kind of stuff.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so not so productive on the art side, but on the business side, I've been full bore.
The business side is important. That's one thing that a lot of people, like, I don't feel particularly strong on the business side myself, and I'm probably more comfortable with the business side than a lot of the artists I've known. So,
yeah,
I hate the business side.
Kelsey knows the business side.
I do a lot of the business side because I like the business side.
Yeah.
You weirdo.
I am a weirdo, and I'm fine with that. I own my niche, damn it.
I need to adopt you.
Yeah, can I get some like free advice?
I'm here if you need me.
But Ben, you've been feeling a lot more productive and encouraged by this?
I really have. I've found myself I usually have to fight to work to get stuff done. Like I'm by nature lazy.
As John Mulaney put it, it's so much easier to just cancel plans.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, if there's any one skill I recommend people learn as young as possible, it's how to work. Like if you can learn to put the effort in, work smarter, not harder is for older people. When you're young, do both. Because if you learn how to work hard, everything else becomes easier.
True.
And I did not learn how to do that young, and I've been fighting it ever since. But this past month, just in the last week, I rattled off an 8-page comic for another anthology.
Nice.
But the thing is, I found I was able to go up to my office every single day and work on stuff. And like even on Sundays, which is usually my day off, part of me is like, I need to go work. Or late at night, like after I've been gaming with friends for a while, I'll still spend a couple hours, like 2 or 3 in the morning, doing more work. And I just keep wanting to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and this past month it's been when it's been turning around. I wasn't sure if anyone else was having the same effect.
I've noticed it myself because I, on top of this Kickstarter and my own Kickstarter that I am fulfilling, there's actually like a 4-page, there's a 4-page short story that I'm illustrating for somebody for a different anthology project. So I've been working on that. I'm still leading the art team at Neverending. There's updates for that coming in the next couple of weeks, but I don't want to say anything yet, just in case anybody from there is watching. But yeah, I've been working at Neverending, doing the short story thing, designing a cover for an author friend of mine because I like doing covers for stuff, and just still working at The Legend of Jamie Roberts. Oh my God, this latest page that I'm working on. There's a crowd scene. I don't know why I did this to myself.
I never know why I do. It's like, why did you do a crowd scene?
I know, and it's in a restaurant. So they're
no! So they're sitting down at tables.
Yes,
it's worse. I hate drawing people sitting at tables. People sitting at tables is like the hardest thing for me to draw. I don't know why. It's so difficult.
Yeah, no.
I do keep doing that to myself because this is not the first time this has happened in The Legend of Jamie Roberts. This is probably like the 3rd or 4th.
Just to show,
I just keep doing it.
You're talking about crowd scenes. So the short story I did involves Hades.
Yeah.
And I decided that I wanted to do a scene with all of the souls as like crops.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
And I did I drew basic human shapes for way more of those than I should have. And fun fact, the crops get seen at least from a distance on multiple pages.
Oh God.
It was so crazy. And I was doing graphite wash for part of it too. Like I actually did a graphite wash comic finally. It's about time.
Nice. Nice.
All of us commiserating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned not to hatch every blade of grass. That's a terrible idea. I did that for 33 pages and then threw away the whole thing.
Yeah. It's one of the things that if you're going to do a crowd scene, one of the main things I'd recommend doing is actually print out that, even if you're working digital, print out that page and do it by hand, because it's way easier to tell what nobody will notice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Every crowd scene I've ever done digital, I'm like, I have to draw every single person perfectly.
Yeah, don't zoom.
And then I zoom out and I'm like, no one will notice. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And after a while, it gets silly. Like I start putting in characters from other comics. There's a scene in a theater that I did for my horror comic, The Man in Green, where there's a balcony, and I felt like I had to draw, and it's supposed to be a packed theater, so I felt like I had to draw people for every single one. And one of them is the robot from my sci-fi story, Trinary.
So For my thesis year, my thesis project, I did a chapter of an ongoing webcomic. The last chapter I actually ever wrote of an ongoing webcomic I had been working on for like 6 or 7 years up to that point. And I had to do crowd scenes, but it was a fantasy world where everyone was dwarves, and I didn't want them all to look exactly the same, because having them like dwarves, not every dwarf is going to braid their beard exactly the same way. That's silly. So in order to make unique characters, I took all the doctors from Doctor Who and converted them into what I think they would look like if they were dwarves.
That's amazing.
and drew like background characters. So sometimes now I'll be going through, like, I'll be reading back through Alphys and Ganora, and I'll get to a page and I'll be like, oh, that's the second Doctor. I recognize that.
Out of curiosity,
I remember thinking to myself.
Out of curiosity, has anyone here not done that? Like, has anyone not put random weird people in crowds in a comic?
I haven't done it yet.
I definitely
I need
did.
to. I don't.
Yeah, I have.
Jess definitely did.
Let's get some deets. Like, who's
literally like the first comic that I like ever like spent serious time on was a Naruto fan comic when I was like 16, and like the first thing that I did was like in the background of it put like, you know, 2 characters I shipped from a Clamp anime like on a date. Yeah, no, I absolutely do that. I know a lot of people put like their friends in the backgrounds of things. I've seen that. Actually, I had this great experience where this other comic artist like contacted me on Instagram to be like, "Oh, I love your recent stuff," and I was like, "Hey, I think I've read your book. I really liked that you put like BBC's Sherlock and John on dates in multiple of the background scenes." And they were definitely like, "Someone noticed! I'm so glad!"
Yes, I will say one of my favorite things about working on validation was that if I had to draw crowd scenes, they always happened at Comic Cons. So I could draw whatever pop culture character that I wanted to in the background. And it was always fun to look at the comments to see who would catch who.
Yeah, I know that Rainer and Mai's names are in Ben's graphic, not latest the Letters of the Devil 2, right? That's the one we're in, right? Where our names are in the background.
Yeah, there's there's one 2-page spread that has a bunch of email addresses, fake email addresses. I want to be clear, like not even the URL. I made sure that none of them actually went to websites even. But I think Kelsey and Angela are also hidden in there too.
I'm gonna have to read this then.
Yeah, I tried to put as many. Like, I had to do a ton of names in there. It's a spread right near the middle. I want to say it's like the chapter 4, chapter 5 end pages, basically.
I remember finding out about that because one of our friends in so for people who are watching, Rainer, Ben, and I are in a D&D group together, and one of the other people in our D&D group had bought Ben's book, was reading it, took a picture and posted in our chat that was like their name and our names and like, "Hey, Ben."
You got to put in Easter eggs like that. Like, if you
exactly.
First off, I always appear in multiple panels of those books, like, and it's always different characters. Like, I like to Hitchcock it. But one of the things that was fun is in my last book, it takes place on a college campus. So I drew myself and one of my best friends from college as we looked back then, just walking down one of the paths and things like that. There was a background for a comic I did before I went to CCS that has never seen the light of day and needs a complete reworking. But this was back when I was learning to do digital art, and I didn't know you didn't have to draw every face in the crowd. And I did this probably back in like 2012, 2013. And for the crowd scene, I needed more faces, so I started drawing the various reviewers on Channel Awesome. This is before all the stuff about Channel Awesome came out, but like that's how I filled out the crowd.
Whatever you got to do, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Anyone else got fun crowd scenes like that?
I did the opposite.
I once saw another artist that drew a Halloween crowd scene, and they put Sailor Moon and Rock Lee as people's costumes, and I was just like,
yes.
did I like dissociate and write this book? Like, I know I didn't, but like, there's a Rock Lee right there.
Standing.
That's basically how the character Constantine was created too.
OTP.
Yeah, I know, right?
Now, see, for me, like crowds of people I'm hearing are trouble. One person is enough for me to have a headache.
Yeah.
So doing Ian's story, illustrating the Rougarou, like I had to figure out ways to make it interesting and anatomy and all of this other stuff going on. So like a lot of the panels are put in a perspective that kind of made it to where I could avoid drawing a person. And
I've done that.
it was really difficult because I can do landscapes, I can do critters, I can do monsters and things that are like don't have predefined anatomy. I mean, I obviously animals and stuff do, but you got a little bit of wiggle room with some of that.
Yeah.
But people, you know, I drift into that uncanny valley all the time, and I don't like it. So you get mountains and stuff from me mostly.
Well, one of the
I always
things
draw people standing with like their hands in their pockets or their hands behind their back because I hate drawing hands.
Yeah.
Well, depending
I
on
did
how far
I
away
did
they
a
are.
demon, and I couldn't get his hand right. So I was like, you know what, this is gonna be a ghost demon. And so he's got like little squiggly armed hands and stuff. So
Something
one of the
important.
things-
Something important that I learned over the course of my time at CCS and beyond was that like I would like thumbnail comics by like things that I thought would be cool, like, you know, oh, if I were to read this in a manga, this is what this scene would look like. We'd have like a top down shot of the campus, and you know, like you'd see a bunch of people walking around, and then like after I had to like draw a few of those scenes and like realized like exactly how much I procrastinated drawing something when I wasn't really comfortable doing the like hardcore the perspective crowd scenes. It's always like perspective crowd scenes. I was just like, okay, from now on, when you are thumbnailing, you're only allowed to thumbnail things that you think will be easy to draw. You can draw a crowd scene. You can even draw everybody. You can draw a crowd scene in a restaurant. But you know what? The perspective is going to be flat. It's going to be like straight ahead. There's only going to be two tables aside from the main characters to show that there are other people at tables. And that's all. Like, I really learned to take my ideas and bring them down to my drawing ability.
On the other hand, I find that like when I do something where I thumbnail it as like, oh, this would be really cool, then that pushes me to become a better artist and to work at it. And like the issue is the sort of balancing the I need to challenge myself so that I can become better and the I need to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
Let's get the deadline.
Yeah, my goal is to figure out how to get some of the more abstract forms seamlessly into my comics. So instead of drawing a person sitting at a table and all their various clothing wrinkles in their face, it's a circle, a triangle, a square, like the more impressionistic, because no one is going to look. So I might as well just draw a circle and a triangle and a square.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
valid.
big thing. One of the things that happen at CCS is sometimes other students would do one-shot lectures, the senior studios. And one of our classmates, Tilly Walden, did one on how she does backgrounds. And like one of the things that's great is because she does these huge intricate backgrounds, and one of the things she brought up is like, I don't check perspective. No one's going to be checking perspective on you. Just fudge it. Like
and
other tricks, put in a door frame and then have someone standing like in the foreground. Like I still do that. That same image I showed you before. Look how much of the foreground is taken up by this dude.
Yeah, she's like, you don't want to draw a full background? Put a wall right here. And you only have to draw this much.
Very good advice.
Yeah, her tricks were.
I use her strategy for drawing mountains, which is very fun because you just like do squiggle, do like one side squiggle, mountain, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
The Bob Ross way.
Exactly.
I do little tricks like that all the
That'd be
time.
little treats. I
It's
remember
things done.
pretty early on in art school, like Rainer, you had said that like your mom read one of my comics and was like, her perspective's a little bit off. I was like, ma'am, were you there?
I don't remember that. Oh my god!
Were you
I'm
there
sorry
the weekend I was drawing this? You can take a back seat.
I'm sorry
yeah.
for mentioning that.
I was also like, Rainer, I'm sorry that you had to grow up with such an exacting mother.
Oh, no, she's great. She's great. But
There's a I can't remember who the author is, but there's this book on perspective for cartoonists that I remember getting lambasted a little bit at CCS, but had some useful stuff in it. It talked about all the detailed rules for doing exact perspective, and then the last chapter is, okay, those are the rules. Throw those all out. Here's the easy way.
Yeah.
Understand it, then make it simpler.
Yeah.
I find the best way to do it personally is to really, really learn perspective so you know what you need to fudge.
Yeah.
Like when I'm doing practice art, I spend all this time, and like I spent 3 months where every drawing I did was on a proper perspective grid to get a feeling for what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then when I'm actually drawing a comic, I'm like, no, none of this is happening.
Also,
I remember
use Clip Studio. It has perspective grids, and you can just go bloop, 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 done.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love it.
Jason Lutz told us
remember-
once that it doesn't have to be right as long as it doesn't look actively wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just about to talk about that lecture
Yeah.
that he gave about how to do perspective.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That was something that we learned in my time doing caricatures was it going back to learn the rules before you start breaking them.
Yeah.
Because
Even
you
Picasso
don't know
painted
what rule
portraits.
you are breaking, just enough to make it still legible.
One other thing I wanted to go back to with Andrew, you were mentioning that you're more comfortable with backgrounds and things like that. I want to make sure you understand that that is an incredibly useful skill in comics.
Yes.
I hate doing backgrounds. Backgrounds are probably my least favorite part of drawing. It is really, really useful to be a good background artist. Like you could even
I love
probably
doing
find
scenes.
work doing that. Like someone's like, I only have to draw characters. Done.
Yeah.
That's not me. Give me
that's
back
how-
scenes and backdrops all day long.
But that's my point. Like you could actually, if that might be something you could market.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are people who would be like, I need a background artist. I mean, because I find a way to work this into every conversation. That's what Akira Toriyama did at one point in his production of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. He just drew the main characters and he had his assistant draw all of the backgrounds, which is why all of them look like deserts.
Yeah.
When that's how most manga works, right? Is they get I mean, they have a whole team of people doing that. That's why they look so amazing.
I can actually show you. So a friend.
Unless you're Yoshihiro Togashi, in which you do everything by yourself.
There's always a few people that do everything by themselves.
A friend of mine recently got me the King of Fighters manga, the most recent one. And it kind of was really funny to me looking at some of it because like here.
Oh, you're gonna feature yourself for a sec?
Just to show. But if you look at that, you have one artist who did those characters, obviously, and the entire background is somebody else. Like you can tell that they drew them separately.
Yeah.
There was a little bit there freak out when I first read Witch Hat Altier, if any of you have read that. Atelier, however you pronounce that word.
Atelier?
Yeah, there. I've never heard it said out loud before. I read that comic, and I got into my head that I need to be able to draw, like, I want to get to the part where I think that's a weekly comic, so I was like, I need to be able to draw one page of that level of detail every day for a month. And then someone reminded me, I don't know who, Rainer, that is not one person drawing that.
Yeah.
If it was one person, they would not have anywhere near that much detail.
Yeah.
So that actually is a good segue. I kind of want to, there's a question I wanted to bring up, and this is just going to be spitballing ideas. We're not committing to any of these.
Okay.
But Rainer and I have talked about the fact that we want to do more anthologies in the future. What kind of projects would you guys like to see?
Ooh.
or work on.
This would be a good time for folks in the comments to pop off some ideas of
Yeah.
their own.
Yes,
We are
everyone can
totally cool with that.
give feedback on this. The reason this was a segue is one idea I kind of had is I was wondering if you could do an anthology that either worked with teams or that had specific people doing specific roles in kind of the classic, like the American
Assembly line?
mainstream comic assembly line. Thank you.
Yeah,
method.
Sure.
And if that might be, I'm curious to be more efficient, but also I'm not sure the people who do anthologies would necessarily want to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the assembly line method of making comics personally, but that could be because I've been making comics entirely on my own and I have done everything. So
I don't
what if it
trust
was
other people.
every contributor, like, you had 7 stories like this one, and then the assembly line thing is each person does 1 page or whatever, so you end up with an 8th story, one of from every contributor.
Oh, interesting. That would be an interesting.
Then it spins. Everybody draws someone else's pencil, someone else's story, spins, inks that, spins.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be rough. And
Collaboration stations.
deadlines would be super important.
That'd be a lot to manage.
Yeah,
That's part of
It'd be
why I
hard.
was wondering about it. So when Rainer and I were originally coming up with this idea, also sexy animation characters, you and Jess should talk. Yes. But with when we were originally coming up with this project, part of the idea was that deadlines were going to be important. And Angela, who has done multiple anthologies, Awesome Possum is great, track it down, but told us right off the bat, be ready for a lot of most people to miss the deadlines. It's just going to happen.
Yep.
So we had a 3-month, but we set up a 3-month deadline, 12 pages, and our heads were like, yeah, that shouldn't be too hard. And even Rainer and I didn't make our deadlines. Like 2 stories got in on time.
And it was a particularly tough year. I mean, it was 2020, of course.
Yeah,
but
that's
regardless,
obviously a factor.
It's people are always going to be late.
Yeah.
It also kind of made me wonder if, say, we had an assembly line system, would that have made that deadline thing easier, or is that just something that we're not going to get indie comics?
Wouldn't that make that extremely
that would
harder?
have made it harder.
Yep.
Okay.
In
That would've made it
every
way
way, shape,
harder.
and form. It would make it more important and more difficult, I think.
Yep. I agree.
Makes sense.
Jessica's comment.
Yep.
I'd love to see something with different stories from the same setting, but in each person's art style, like Animatrix or that Dead Space movie.
That would be pretty awesome,
Cartoon
actually.
Tales.
I would
Kind of
really
like,
enjoy doing something like that.
I think
So-
Fantology is kind of
Yeah.
doing that.
That's
But not
what
quite.
Cartosia Tales did, right?
Hmm?
Cartosia Tales?
Cartosia Tales did that too, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
That
you
was
for
an
putting a name
interesting
to that because I was thinking of it and I couldn't remember it.
When they had a map that kind of, with each story, got defined more and more
Yeah.
as people defined what it was, because there was like a general
Yeah.
idea, but it was no specifics yet.
Yeah.
There's
Interesting.
some CCS people from the class 2 years below Rainer, Jess, and I that are they're calling it Fantology. It's a fantasy anthology, and it's a similar sort of deal where, like, here's the map, the artists define what goes in each section of the map, and with each, I think they did 2 volumes. I don't know if there's plans for a 3rd volume.
There is, and
But-
they're currently accepting submissions.
Oh, cool, neat.
Oh.
But like that, they people are building on each other's stories and building on like the worlds that were developed, and it would be cool to do something similar with something for this anthology. However, I also really like the spinning, like you write something and then someone else takes it. The only problem with that is I don't script, I thumbnail.
Yep.
When it could be script / thumbnail / whatever.
I would probably say start a thumbnail because there are so many of us that don't script. Like I script, but I
do.
I was kind of in the minority in our class, I think.
Well, you also have a film background, so there's probably just like
Yeah.
I
like
what
that.
you're comfortable with.
Oh, I do like that. That's
Yeah.
a fun idea.
You know, it's
I mean, that
funny,
is kind
there's
of how TV shows work usually.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because there's another Columbus creator I was talking to who had a similar, I think he had a similar idea, but I wasn't entirely following him, but I think this is what he was talking about. A guy named J.M. Hunter.
Oh, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. Akin to Space Dandy or Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, very episodic.
Yeah.
I also know, I was thinking that one of the entries in my graphic novel series, I thought about opening it up to other people and doing an anthology of people doing short stories in this universe. I'm not sure that would be necessarily the right fit, just because it's a very specific universe.
Yeah.
But like if we did a sci-fi or fantasy thing, that could be really cool.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah. Or we could just say that Less Than Secret is one universe. Is there any reason it could? Well, my story kind of screws it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, your story does kind of throw a wrench into things.
Is
I think
that
with
the only
everyone
one?
else, it's semi-real world-ish.
Your story could be a D&D game played by characters from the list.
There's a whole continent.
Rezzy's running a game with.
Oh my god! I legitimately was thinking about. At one point, I was thinking about like what would Frezzy and friends be doing? Like which of them plays D&D? Who's the GM? Cryptid. I love it.
It would be tricky for Frezzy to like do any kind of dice rolling because he has no hand.
Actually, Ken is the DM. The Kraken is the DM because
Nice.
he's got his arms and everything.
Oh my god! Yes.
You know what? Oh man, my story is from their campaign, and that's a frustrating night for Frezzy because it's a TPK.
Yes! Oh my god!
Did this just become canon?
I have been wanting to write more stories with those characters because, like, I only really got to feature Frezzy, and then, like, Nessie and Ken are only in, like, a couple of pages, and Bigfoot's on one page, but I love Bigfoot's design, and I really want to do more with those characters. The Abominable Snowman doesn't even talk, and I love his design, and I want to do more with those characters. I would love to do more with those characters.
There is no reason I can think of if we do that with my story that the rest of the stories couldn't all fit in the same universe.
I'm genuinely I think you are right. Like there's tonally they're completely different, but in terms of like it is a semi-modern-ish world where cryptids exist and interfere in the lives of humans. Like, granted, I kind of set up a world where there's, like, Cryptid Town, where cryptids hang out, but that doesn't mean that you can't have Cryptid Town where cryptids hang, like...
Yeah, that's just a location.
There's no reason that the Mothman couldn't hang out at Gilman's bar. Or Gilman's
exactly. At Gil's bar.
Gil's bar.
He is the Gilman. His name is Gil.
Yeah.
Well, personally, Mothman would probably just not do that because he likes being a creeper.
Yeah. Gilman, Mothman sits on the roof of Gil's bar and just stares at people as they walk in, and everyone's like,
beer.
Yeah, sipping tea. Just
we okay, buddy?
Frezzy just thinks he's a panhandler. It's like, I toss you a coin, but no hands.
For some reason, my mind automatically went to Cryptid Town is in New Jersey because of the Jersey Devil comic was the other one.
Cryptid Town would be in New Jersey.
It would. Let's be real, it would.
Mothman checks the IDs. That would actually work really well.
It would.
It would be fun if we want to continue in Cryptidverse doing cryptids. It would be really fun to like pass cryptids off to each other.
Yeah.
To like take each other's do something with each other's cryptids.
Ooh.
Sequel cryptid
it sounds like a Less Than Secret sequel might end up being what we go with. Like people sound like they might be interested in that.
That would be fun.
Because that question's come up a lot, and we've always been like, we're probably going to do a different anthology, but who knows? Lesser Than Secret?
Less Than Secret 2.
Secret?
Less than or equal to.
More Than Secret. Oh my god, that's
More
fantastic.
The Secret.
Yes.
Less than
Really
secret,
secret
too.
this
We
time.
all know you're there.
Yeah. More
It's
than
called like look behind you.
Ooh.
No cover art, but back cover art.
Yes.
yeah, that'd be loopy.
It's probably bad marketing, but it's as a cartoonist, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people might think that that's a manga if you put the cover art on the back cover.
Yeah,
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
One other thing that I definitely want to do when we do more anthologies is one of the best parts of this project has actually been working with Ian and Andrew, who are brand new to comics.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is their first published work, period. And that in particular, I think I'd like to do more of. Like one of the ideas that was thrown out is if we did do a team system, we definitely want to bring in people who are new and give them an opportunity to work with people and give them an opportunity for exposure. Now, the tricky thing is we also want to work with everyone in this group again.
Yeah.
But it is one of the ideas that we thought that would be awesome.
Well, just don't do what I did with Awesome Possum and go from 8 contributors to 16 contributors to 44 contributors.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Don't do exponential growth is not a good plan.
Let's maybe do
secrets.
10,
That's a good one.
10 contributors.
We originally invited 12, I think, and
Yeah.
it ended up with 7 because that's how anthologies work.
7 stories.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think a sweet spot would be keeping it to like 10 creators or less, honestly.
Yeah. I think we invited 12 and assumed that we'd lose a few people, but we could handle 12 if we got everybody.
Yeah.
That was sort of the idea. Yeah, and it turned out to, we really did hit a great number with it.
Oh yeah.
I think too. I mean, what you guys
It's in
learned from
space.
Yes, please.
Cryptids go to space. I was gonna say, I think what comes into play too is what you guys learned from it. I mean, Ben, you mentioned this was like your first anthology on Kickstarter and stuff like that. So, I mean, the freedom that you gave every creator here was, hey, cryptids, have a go at it. You got a mix of stories, different genres, cryptids, approaches, things like that. The feedback that you get from the Kickstarter, the feedback. What brought people to it? Was it the mix of genres? Was it the cryptids or what it was? I think that'll help answer the question for what the next one is too.
That's
If
true.
you just open it up like, hey, robots, have at it. You're gonna
I like that one. Let's do that one.
Yeah, you're gonna have a
You've
lot.
done
of
a
robots.
personal robot anthology. I know that.
Yes.
I love robots. I have a couple of robot stories that have been on the back burner because my original thesis project was going to be an anthology of stories about robots, and then I switched to something else. So
Honestly, just
I
a
really
robot
like trying
anthology
robots
would
too,
be
actually.
just a robot
Robots,
anthology in general would be a good one. I would enjoy a robot anthology.
robot.
Yeah,
My,
what if it's
I
just
did
as simple as
about drawing
robots?
robots is I almost never is talking mainly about like anthropoid robots, so shaped like people. I usually don't draw them the way I draw people. I draw each individual part as it connects together until you eventually have a full form.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Jess can do that hot anime character robot.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Where
I'm
my
so
mind went.
into robot characters.
There you
There's
go.
something so like wholesome about them,
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being biased because I love Data from Star Trek,
Yes.
but like
Yeah.
I don't know,
First crush.
androids, I love them.
We should do a
Androids.
robot anthology.
Yes.
You know what?
Robots,
That
sexy
sounded
anime
pretty popular.
robots.
Yeah,
That is absolutely what you're getting from me is sexy anime robots. If you do
Yeah.
that.
For me, it's between Data and like C-3PO R2D2. I love robots is good. Robots is always good.
I loved the Tin Man. He's not technically a
Yeah.
robot, but he's basically a robot. He was,
Yeah.
Feels like a robot.
yeah.
He's a robot precursor.
Yeah.
By the
Also,
way, I
I
just
grew up reading like Isaac Asimov. Like I was
Yep.
obsessed with Isaac Asimov short stories. I read all of them, and in retrospect, it probably contributed to my internalized misogyny because some of those books are pretty sexist.
Yeah.
I reread one of my collections when I was in my thesis year because I was like, I'm going to do an anthology about robots, and then I didn't. But when I was like, I'm going to do a whole bunch of short stories that are all about robots, I reread some of my Isaac Asimov books, and I was like, oh, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, what's it called? Robbie, the nursemaid robot.
Yeah.
Like I read that one and I was like, this is so like misogynist. This is so like disparaging of the mother character in this story and so dismissive of her. And I was like, what? And then, I was also a really big fan. I read his other books, including like the stuff that wasn't sci-fi, like the Black Widow series, which is literally like a stag club solves murder mysteries. Or not murder mysteries, just mysteries in general. But it's literally like all these men getting together specifically for like just to get away from their wives in order to have time just with other men. And like, again, in retrospect, what is going on?
A lot of 1960s sci-fi did not like women. Robert A. Heinlein is the first name that pops up. I tried reading Stranger in Strangeland. I honestly tried. But when he got to the chapter of the author self-insert character looking at his handyman and going, you really shouldn't be offended by cannibalism. You're 1/8 Native American. It's like, okay, I'm going to put this book down.
No.
Robert A. Heinlein.
Deep thoughts with Heinlein.
I loved Heinlein a lot as a kid, like a lot. Stranger in a Strange Land, Starship Troopers. Oh God, what was the one he wrote about? Series about the immortal, but in Heinlein, that guy's a big oof.
Yeah,
that guy's a big oof.
Yeah.
One thing I do kind of want to bring up, going back a step, is people have been asking me, why'd you guys pick cryptids as a topic? And I just want to say the reason was, you saw what just happened when robots came up. This exact reaction is what happened when someone, I think Rainer actually said cryptids during an early meeting, and everyone in the room went, yes, I have a bunch of ideas we can do for cryptids.
Yeah.
Well, I remember early on, I remember suggesting classic movie monsters. I remember suggesting like Frankenstein, the Mummy, zombies, but it was coming out of, I remember my reasoning behind this. It was coming out of, it's 2020. The world has gone into pandemic lockdown mode. And I was like, there are going to be so many zombie stories that are going to resonate with people. Let's do zombies. And then it expanded and now nobody's doing zombies. And instead we're doing cryptids. But I think it came from zombie, classic movie, horror monster, Bigfoot and other cryptids.
Right. Yeah. By the way, I like that Gilman is a reference to that in your story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that's nice about setting up anthology subjects and things like that, if you keep it like a topic and just a little bit vague, you can get so much creative work from people in a lot of different directions. It's like when I hear cryptid, my first thought is horror because that's the background I come from. And only 2 of the stories I'd say really leaned into horror. And I think we have more comedy than we had horror, which is great. Every story makes it work.
Yeah, there's comedy, there's slice of life, there's magical realism, there's murder mystery, there's like
it's very light restrictions. I find are one of the best tools for creativity because when you're told you have to work with a specific topic, you immediately start getting ideas when you normally wouldn't.
True.
The anthology I was just showing some stuff from that I just drew. It's funny because the theme we were given was hope, and I wrote the bleakest story I think I've ever written. That is simultaneously the most inspirational story I've ever written. But it's funny because it goes really, really down and dark, and I'm like, the theme was hope. How did this happen?
Yeah, but you were given just enough free reign. I will say it's not just subject matter that you can use as a restricting tool. Like our guidelines for this anthology was it has to be about a cryptid, or like a cryptid has to be involved in some way. It's got to be in black and white. Here's the page dimensions. 12 pages or less.
No, it was
Yeah.
12 pages
12 pages.
period,
12 pages, period.
which is
Yeah.
that's pretty strict. That's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
also really fun to be like, wow, let's mush this until it fits
Yep.
in those pages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is
I
always
really
a
enjoy that.
challenge.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who starts with scripts, because you'll very often write out stuff, and while you're working on it, you're like, this will not fit comfortably on a page.
Yeah.
But see, I start with a bulleted list of what happens on each page, and then I go to the script, then I thumbnail, then I script, then I thumbnail.
I'll be
Yeah,
right back.
That's what I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Not
yeah.
scripting.
I'm all about page turns.
It's and that's the other thing. Like the nice thing about having page count restrictions was it made it a lot easier for people to figure out their page turns and where
Yeah.
they fall into place.
That's
Yep.
one of the weird things in Awesome Possum. I mean, it's one of the reasons I've stuck with the general natural science theme rather than doing something specific, is
Mhm.
for all the reasons that cryptids has been good. But now I forgot what I was saying.
Oh, no.
We
my
were talking
page
about page
turns.
restrictions.
Oh yeah, I have a page limit, but not like an upper limit. So people are giving me 1 page to 12, but sometimes it's even pages, sometimes it's odd pages, so it gets really hard to fit them together.
Yeah.
And some people also want it to start on the left page, and most people on the right. So I have to make sure which page they want to start on, so I can start and keep their page breaks. It's less important in nonfiction to
Yeah.
get those page breaks because there's not a whole lot of surprises. But
We'll be right back.
Okay. But yeah, that was something we ended up talking a lot about, is like how we wanted the page breaks for each story to go. And it's funny because I'm torn about what we decided, and the one we went with is the one I was pushing. So I think I could have been wrong. But I think I don't know. It looks awesome. I want to make that clear. But
Yes.
we ended up going with the first page of each story is a right-hand facing page, so that you basically get the end of one story, the beginning of the next story on it. And it's funny because I showed it to my mom, and she's like, I don't like that. Can you shift it all over one page? I'm like, no, it would ruin everyone's story.
you have to shift it 2 pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to shift it 2 pages and put in like end pages, and we decided that's completely unnecessary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, for one thing, there's a lot of anthology projects that do not do that. For another thing, it's fairly evident by art style and tone where the story ends and the next one begins.
Yeah,
There's
and
always
we
a big
make
title.
everyone has a title and their name on the first page also.
Yeah.
Like that was one thing we told everybody to do, because I've worked on anthologies where you go through it and I was the only one who put my name and title on the first page. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
Get credit for your work.
That was
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
big edits I always have to do in Awesome Possum. Is like, okay, this is great. Put your name and title on the first page somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, my first, it's easy to forget. I didn't put my name in the first try, just the title, and I had to add it.
When we were going to school, no one was putting their names on. Then the teachers would always be like, hey, put your name on this. Be proud of your work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So
It-
I have people's comics that I had to write their name on while we were doing critiques because there's no other. I had no idea who they were yet, so I couldn't recognize their art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For any
that
artists who are watching the stream, put your name on your work.
Yes,
Yeah, it is a problem. I come across this online all the time too, and in some cases, it's because people are reposting other people's stuff and have deliberately removed the name. Which, if you do that, you suck.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, when I'm on Reddit, for example, and someone posts something and there's no credit on it, and it looks like it might be a repost, I'll try to find it and then post in the comments the source. And it frustrates me how often I can't entirely blame the reposter, because they probably found a version of this that doesn't have the information on it because the artist didn't make one with the information on it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if I see this with a surprising number of webtoons. Like,
Yeah.
you'd think if you've made it to webtoon level, you'd put your name on your stuff.
Yeah.
well, I mean anyone can post to webtoons, can't they?
Yeah.
Anybody can. That's kind of one of the features of Webtoon is
it
anybody
really?
can post their webcomic
Yes.
on there as long as you know how to format it.
There's
For
just
some reason, I had it in my
part,
head that it was curated. Oh, well.
They have a
They
partner
also
thing.
curate.
Yeah.
They curate the like premier ones. Yeah. And those are the ones that get like they get a deal with Webtoon that's contract, and I remember taking a look at the contract and going, nah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what I keep hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Man.
that's why I'm not on Webtoon, by the way, because there are a lot of people, especially at conventions, who will look at my stuff and go, oh my God, are you on Webtoon? And I'm like, no.
Yep,
Mhm.
I get that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I will say fan art is one place where I kind of get when people don't put credit stuff on there because they're worried about, I don't want to get sued or anything like
Yeah.
that. But
I put my Twitter handle and my Tumblr handle on my fan art because I want people to be able to find me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And most of that stuff, first off, you're not profiting off most of that stuff. So you generally can deal with it. And if someone has an issue with it, usually they will just notify you. You take it down, problem solved.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's interesting because you also, if you technically you own any of the images you create, so you should be writing copyright on there. So the original person can't just steal your work.
Yeah.
I know this whole thing is complicated and gray area, but yes, have your name, have your information on there. There's actually a very interesting game theorist video about this because the guy who did Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Cawthon, had some trouble with this not long ago, where in the official promo art for one of the games, someone accidentally used fan art, like one of the people in his team. And it was so good they didn't realize it wasn't original art, so they did it without crediting.
Oh dear.
Here's the thing: Scott Cawthon handled it very well. He apologized. He had the art removed, and then he had the proper credit given to the artist whose stuff he used. And like, I think there was even a payout. Like, there wasn't a lawsuit or anything. Like, just he's like, we screwed up. Here's this for this. But like, it's interesting because there was an entire video on, did he actually have to do this, or was it just good PR?
Both.
Yeah. The video is interesting. If you like the game theorist stuff, check it out. But yeah, it's the whole fan art question's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I've honestly wanted to do a fan comic, and I've been inspired to do a fan comic recently. The only thing is, it's not the copyright issues that are stopping me. It is how much time it takes to make a comic.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, I would totally do it.
There was a my solution for that is just make the artwork crappy.
I have so much respect for people who do fan comics.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pieces of fan anything is a Doctor Who fan comic called, I want to say, The 10 Doctors, which was written when there were only 10 doctors.
Yeah.
And it's in the vein of actual episodes called like the 3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, the 2 Doctors, where it's crossovers between multiple doctors, and it's so good. It's got it. The main thing that gets me is I have wanted to do a Doctor crossover comic or a Doctor crossover story, but the thing is those episodes, the actual episodes that do that, are good because they have a plot. Not just because it's the Doctors interacting. And this comic does the same thing, where there's like an actual plot and like an actual threat to the universe that requires like bringing everybody in. And I just have so much respect for people who do fan comics, because that is an enormous level of work for literally the only reward is people eyeballs on your stuff because you can't make any money off of it or you're in serious like legal trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite just webcomics total is Steven A. Universe, or Ask White Diamond, or White Steven and Pearl, which was about a White Diamond version of Steven Universe and White Pearl from Steven Universe. And it was made the episode that we met White Diamond. They
Okay.
started this comic, and then there was a hiatus, and they did like 50 pages before the second episode with that character in it, and it's still going. And I'm like, you saw one episode.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You made like an entire graphic novel. Did you have this planned?
Apparently, there's a lot of Undertale webcomics that would put that to shame.
so many.
There are
so many
fan works in Undertale
amazing
that-
Undertale webcomics.
Yes.
Like-
and also, there are entire separate universes for Undertale. Like, Super Eye Patch Wolf on YouTube actually did a video all about this.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Thank goodness, because there's so many to keep track of.
Yep.
One other thing that's worth noting, I don't know that it's happening with comics as much yet, but in the game industry, they've started paying more attention to fan works in interesting ways. The big one is Sega actually hired people who made fan games to make Sonic Mania.
Yeah, they did.
Interesting.
And it's considered one of the best Sonic games of the decade. Like, it's huge.
Yeah.
Not just the
especially since
decade.
a lot of Sonic games have not been well received.
Yeah, but Sonic Mania is like actually like I'm only tangentially a Sonic fan.
Yeah.
I don't really play any of the games. I read the comics back in the day, but I will say Sonic Mania is legit the one game that I would want to pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was made by people who made Sonic fan games, and they were brought on because it's like, these guys really know what they're doing. They really love Sonic. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also traditional animation instead of really crappy CGI.
Yeah. There was another thing, again, involving Five Nights at Freddy's. I may have gone down a Five Nights at Freddy's rabbit hole again recently. But one of the things that talked about in that is the guy who runs that, Scott Cawthon, recently did a project where he said, okay, a lot of people have been making fan games of Five Nights at Freddy's, which I don't know if you've seen any of them, but they are very, very derivative. He didn't say that, but that's my hot take. But what he said is that rather than cracking down on them or anything like that, he's going to fund them making more games, porting their games to other consoles, things like that. He's actually promoting the fan game guys and giving them backing.
Oh,
interesting.
And it's just very interesting because you've got people who are basically doing fanfic, getting promoted by the original people, and finding work out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not happening widespread yet, but it's something to pay attention to. Like, any work is work. You can find ways to promote it however you want.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Going back to ideas for the next anthology, we could do something like a fandom related.
Fandom related.
Okay, that would require either picking a fandom or having like it's quote unquote fandom related. Like, what do you mean by fandom related?
That could be difficult.
Like, also,
I think they're afraid to say it because I'll take another shot.
Well, it could be like up to artist interpretation is where I'm going with it. So like take the phrase fandom related and interpret it how you will. Kind of like how we took cryptids and we interpreted it however we would.
Well, except cryptids have a more defined, like, this is what a cryptid is. It is a, urban legend creature that has never been seen, but, has all these things. It's like fandom related is like, that's so vague. I know what a fandom is, but when you say cryptids, I immediately went, oh, I'm going to pick a cryptid. I'm going to write a story about it. When you say fandom related, I'm like, okay, but what's like, okay, for example,
about fandoms, but
Cospain is a fandom related comic. I've read some of it. It's fandom related. That is like in my brain what I think of, but so would be like a fan comic. Like the 10 Doctors, and those are not the same genre. Or even like, I don't think they would belong in the same like anthology together, if that makes sense. So like there's
Right.
a difference between like, I don't know.
And Cospain, like one of the tricks there is it's a fandom comic that's not about a specific fandom.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Like I very, very, very deliberately am. If I reference any other fandom, it's under parody name. Like the character is designed to be different. One of the characters, MP, has occasionally cosplayed a character that I've named as Silk Revan, which is a reference to Velvet Crow from Tales of Berseria. But it's like, I'm not going to use the actual name. I'm going to use the same color. I'm not going to use the same like design. But that sort of was in my head when I was designing that character.
Yeah. I'm just curious, Ben. What did you think I was going to say?
Oh, Dragon Ball Z, obviously.
No. I wouldn't force that on anybody else. It is incredibly niche. Like,
Oh, I'd do it though.
No, it would be great because one of those 12-page stories would just be charging scenes and yelling.
Oh, that'd be funny.
That would actually be really funny is if we had like 3 stories that were just them powering up with different artists.
see, this is why I hate the original Broly movie, because the original Broly movie was what cemented everybody into thinking, oh, this show is entirely about screaming and powering up.
Yeah.
And really stupid grudges. And I have thoughts, but no, I wouldn't force Dragon Ball Z as a anthology theme on anybody else, especially this group.
That's one of the things is like an anthology project. There are anthologies which are like fandom oriented. Like I literally have a zine. I bought one a month or two ago. That is like fan art and fanfic and fan works about a fandom I am in. Like those things exist. If you want to do that, those exist.
I
don't think
Max
that's
Fury Road
for this group. Like I have the one that I have is for Rusty Quill Gaming, which we also talked about on my individual interview with Kelsey.
That would I'm not sure that would be right for this group, but man, that would be a great anthology.
Yeah.
No,
my friend Chloe always gives like copies of the anthologies and zines that she's been a part of for various fandoms, like Yuri on Ice and a couple other ones. And I'm just like, I have not seen Yuri on Ice yet, but I'm really glad that you're in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have got to probably head out.
It's probably a good time for we've been going for about 2 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, we've
My
been on
ears
here for
hurt
like 2
a lot
hours.
because I don't wear headphones regularly. So yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, thank you for joining us.
So do we want to wrap up maybe?
I think wrap up's probably a good idea. Let everyone
anthology.
get a breath.
Somebody do a Frasier fan comic ASAP.
I'm in.
But thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for your support over the last month.
Yes.
It has been absolutely crazy and fantastic. We are currently sitting at $5,843. Yep, with 185 backers. So we're $157 from our next stretch goal. I bet we're going to get there because we have 45 hours left in the Kickstarter.
I hope we do.
Yep.
Because when we get that next stretch goal, that means that not only will the artists get paid a higher page rate, it also means that we get to play a tabletop RPG of some kind, date and system TBD. But yes.
We've been discussing Monster of the Week, but we may go with a simpler system or something similar, just because we have some people who are not as experienced with role playing. But that it might be Monster of the Week. Who knows?
Yeah.
I want to learn Monster of the Week.
I was inspired by this by somebody on Twitter being like, please, just for the love of all that is holy, play something that is not a D&D campaign for an actual play live stream. And I'm like, that's it. We're playing Laser Kittens.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing we're talking about is those one-page, they're one-sheet RPGs, which might be the way to go.
Laser Kittens is actually like a small-ish book. I have it on my shelf, I think. Let me go see if I can find it.
One other potential anthology would be Pets.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that would be a fun thing.
That would be fun. I would enjoy that.
I can see that.
Laser Kittens.
Come to think of it, am I the only one here who doesn't have a pet?
No, I don't either.
I don't. This is my pet right now.
Oh, right, but you've had pets in the past.
I've had pets, many pets.
Technically, my pet is not my pet; it's Rainer's pet. But I do live with a pet, so
Yeah.
He is in the apartment.
I live
yes.
with 2, and they don't get along. Or at least they barely get along. If you saw me going hey off screen, that was both of the cats passing each other. And every time they pass each other, Bree is usually the one that goes ee, ee, ee. And I'm like, honey.
Yeah, Bree doesn't like Boo.
Yeah, Bree does not like Boo Boo. Boo Boo gets along with everybody.
I have a
It's
Dalmatian
like this
and a
thing
wiener
with-
dog, and they try to get
Aw.
along, but the size difference kind of makes that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember hearing at one point that the reason dogs and cats traditionally don't get along is a communication error, because dogs wag their tails when they are happy and excited and want to play, and cats raise their tails when they want to look larger and are aggressive. So cats think that dogs are being aggressive towards them, and dogs think that cats are being friendly towards them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I can see
I would
that.
love to read a pet comic by Ben, who is terrible with animals.
Yeah.
I like to say I'm like Elmira from Tiny Toons. Like, I love animals and annoy the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you don't like to be held, but you're just so cute.
Oh,
Aw.
Yep. She's not running away.
She doesn't.
Hey.
Nope. She doesn't struggle at all. She grumbles.
Aw.
Yep. Don't you grumble, honey.
Hello, Jessica. Hello, roommate.
Yeah. Yep, everybody, this is Alex
Hello.
and Boo Boo. Oh, Boo Boo. She accepts face rubbings. It is the only thing that keeps her like in place whenever she's being held. Is anytime that I pet her face.
Aw.
Look at the happy face. Look
Did
at
I
that.
ever tell you guys about making Ian's cat look like a heroin addict?
Oh, nice.
Okay, we're good.
Have I ever told that story? Maybe not now, since some people need to leave.
Yeah, we should wrap up.
yeah.
But
Okay.
no, I don't think you have, and that sounds like an interesting story.
That'll be a
See,
good
you've
live
got-
stream
you've
story.
got your
Maybe
pet
I'll tell it. Maybe I'll tell it tomorrow on my live stream for the 200 strip of Cost Pain, which is at 7 p.m. Eastern
Or
time.
that's your pet anthology
watch
story.
Yep.
Or that's your pet anthology story.
Exactly. So
we're
anyway,
good?
thank you all for joining us. We've got just less than 2 days left on this Kickstarter. We are excited for this to wrap and to actually get on to the next step. I know personally I'll be taking next week to not be in Kickstarter mode, which will be very nice.
Yes.
But yeah, anyone have sign-offs they want to do?
I know mine.
Yep. Why don't you start, since you know what you're doing?
Sure. Okay. Just check out the Kickstarter campaign, tinyurl.com/less-than-secret. We got less than 50 hours to go, and we still got commission slots available. We have a whole bunch of stuff available for you to claim as rewards. So check it out. We're also excited. I am also very tired. But yeah, that's good. That's going to be it for now, I suppose. So thank you so much for watching. Y'all are awesome.
Whoa.
One thing I do want to add on with that, with commissions, in addition to the commission tiers that we have from myself, Angela, and Kelsey, we also have digital commissions that are available as add-ons, and they still are available. Those are by Ariane, Andrew, and Rainer. So if you happen to miss those, check your pledge. You actually do have the option to add those on. Really awesome work also.
Yes.
So until next time, rock on, guys, and never stop drawing.
Bye.